welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting a new series that I hope to do on my channel as long as you guys want to keep seeing them. But I wanted to start doing yarn reviews because, as you know, I do a lot of sample knitting for yarn stores and individual indie dyers, and I thought that it could be a lot of fun because the yarns are new to me, that a lot of times I've never used them. I thought it would be a lot of fun to share my thoughts and opinions on them with you. Because if you're anything like me, you absolutely hate buying yarn online that you can't feel or that you don't know anything about. So I thought maybe I could bring a little bit of my insights to your yarn buying experience. Forgive the background, I'm just in a random spot at my parents' house and I am just in sweats because it's freezing out today, and I just plan on casting on as soon as I'm done with this and getting started with the yarn I want to talk about today. Also, Mako is walking around. He's probably going to be making some noise, and I'm so sorry about that. But let's just go ahead and dive into the first impressions part of this video. I thought that it would be fun if I did like a first impressions part of the video and then do like an as I'm working on it, my thoughts of the yarn, and then an after overview of my thoughts on the yarn. So today I'm going to be talking to you about WoolFolk Luft yarn, which is right here. I don't have any of the labels on it because 614 Knit Studio, Andrea, she sent me just the sweaters quantity, so it was all the same dye lot, so it doesn't have any labels because it's just packaged like this. But I do have a cake here, and I believe the color that I have here is L11 linen. I didn't ask her that, but she did tell me that this was WoolFolk Luft yarn. So I believe this is the linen colorway. It's kind of just like a sand color. That's the best way I would describe it. It looks just like sand, and I really like it. So I'm going to be using this yarn to knit the Limpy Cardigan by Vera Valimaki, which looks like this. And I have another picture here for you guys. It's just a really cute bulky weight cardigan. So WoolFolk Luft is considered a bulky weight yarn. It is a size 5. And it kind of looks a little thin for a bulky. However, this kind of yarn sort of blooms a little bit with knitting and blocking. So this is a chainette yarn with a Pima cotton chainette with a blown merino fibers through it. So you kind of get a vibe of an alpaca yarn. In fact, when I opened the package, I thought this was an alpaca yarn, but it is not. It's actually merino, which is really cool. It's incredibly soft, very lightweight. So the best thing about these kinds of yarns, in my opinion, is how lightweight they are, because if you're making a bulky weight garment, if you're anything like me, bulky weight garments, they hurt my hands like no other to knit when you're using like a regular yarn, like a regular plied yarn. And I don't tend to find myself leaning toward those garments after I finish them because they feel bulky on my body. So having a chainette yarn is a really great alternative to that. If you guys saw my rug sweater that I made, I used Wonder Fluff by Knit Picks, and it's a very similar yarn to this. And I believe that is $8.50 a ball, whereas this is $18 a ball, or a skein, and you get 109 yards because these are 50-gram balls. So those are like the specs on what the yarn is. I do think that the Wonder Fluff is probably going to be a good alternative, but I'll let you guys know after I've finished knitting my garment. So my first impressions of the yarn is I am very excited to work with it. I've heard tons of great things about WoolFolk yarn, and I actually had somebody reach out to me on Instagram, and she said that she absolutely loved WoolFolk yarn and she was using it to knit a sweater, and she sent me a picture of the sweater, and she was getting amazing definition on it. I think she was knitting one of the sweaters by Jacqueline Cusack. I don't know. I'll put it on the screen, the name of the sweater she was knitting, but she got such great definition with it. It was amazing. Because the chainette is cotton, it actually doesn't take the dye, so it stays white, and then the merino is actually the thing that gives the color off, so you still kind of get that white core, which almost makes your garment look really shiny. So it gives you a really cool effect, and it really gives you a lot of great definition. The pattern that I'm knitting doesn't have a lot of details. There's some ribbing, but other than that, it's just a simple stockinette garment. So I think this yarn is going to look beautiful with that. I really can't wait to get started. So I think that's all I have to say about the yarn itself and kind of my first thoughts on it. I have used a yarn similar to this before. Never used this yarn. The yarn I used before was an alpaca yarn, and this one is a merino, so it is going to give me a different quality as far as knitting with it and blocking with it. So I'm very excited to see kind of how they compare. In this pattern, she does call for an alpaca yarn. I'll put the yarn that she calls for on the screen. I can't say it, but it does say it's a brushed alpaca and nylon blend yarn. So I think that this is going to be a really nice comparison without using the alpaca, especially if you are sensitive to alpaca, as some people are. I think it's really soft, but not everybody does. So I will let you guys know how I think of this. I'm gonna go cast on, and I'll come back to you whenever I have a little bit of progress, and we'll talk about how I'm feeling about it. A lot of progress on my cardigan here. As you can see, I split for the sleeves. It's going to look a little weird because this has a super interesting construction, but this video isn't about that. It is about the yarn and how I'm enjoying working with it so far. So I've done quite a bit of knitting with this yarn, and I am definitely enjoying it. It's very smooth to work with. Yesterday I worked with it outside all day, and it was about 65 degrees. I even got a little sunburn on my hand, but I had no issues with it in the sun as far as like gliding across my needles or anything. I know sometimes when I work with wool outside, especially when it's hot, I have a little bit more friction going on. And like I said, I'm working with it on my Leica needles, which are a wooden needle, and it's going so smoothly. I'm really enjoying it. Worked with this yarn for several hours yesterday without really taking a break. I did a couple of stretches, I went and got a water, but other than that, I worked on it for hours straight, and I had no issues with my hands hurting. It wasn't making like my fingers get any like yarn burn or anything like that. It's just been really smooth. It's really soft. It's literally a cloud, you guys. This is so lightweight to work with, and this is a really big piece since this is a bulky weight cardigan. But since the yarn is a blown yarn, it's just made it so easy to work with. And I'll kind of give you a little close-up, if I can, of the texture, because as I mentioned before, it has like this casing. So you see the white through, and it kind of gives it this like really shiny effect. It's really quite nice. So far my verdict is I'm really enjoying it. I don't think that's going to change anymore from the time I talk to you now until I finish it, but I will come back to you and give you all of my thoughts on it once I'm done. And so I finished the cardigan I'm making with the WoolFolk Luft yarn. This is the Limpy cardigan by Vera Valimaki, and I have finished the sweater. So I wanted to show you guys what it looks like pre-blocking. It's a little bit stiff, but like it's still pretty drapey. Like you could totally just like wear this out now or get a nice steam, and it would probably relax quite a bit. But I am going to wet block it in some tough woolens, and we're gonna see what happens. I'm excited to see how the rib opens up a little bit, and I do still need to sew the pockets down, but I'm going to do that afterwards. But yeah, the yarn has been a joy to work with so far. You can see I had a little bit of color differentiation. I'll talk about that more at the very end whenever this is all finished and blocked. But I'm gonna throw it in some water, let it soak for 15 minutes in some like lukewarm water, and then I'm going to stomp it out on a towel and lay it out to dry. I'll probably pin it to be the dimensions that I want, and that's that. We'll talk more whenever it's all done. So here is the sweater off of the blocking mats. To be honest, it's slightly damp still, but yeah, I just couldn't wait any longer. I needed to get it off of there and finish it up. But here's what it looks like, the yarn drape. As you can see, it's not so stiff. The drape is amazing. The length of everything, I love it. This yarn is really great. I'm very pleased with it. I still have to sew the pockets into the sweater, so it's not completely done, but this is about the yarn anyway, so I didn't think that was that important. And let me tell you, I really enjoyed this project. I thought the yarn was really nice to work with. I used wooden needles, my Leica needles, so I felt like the yarn glided really well on those. Unlike bamboo needles, they're a lot smoother, so I think that helped. I think it would be really nice to use this on metal needles as well, such as Chiago. I didn't have a problem with splitting or anything. As far as working with it, I didn't use very sharp needles though, so maybe if you were using a sharper needle, a pointier needle, then you might have a little bit of an issue with it slipping into like the cotton casing because it is like a bit of a mesh. But other than that, I don't really think that this is gonna give you too many issues. I do wanna mention the dye lot thing. You should definitely buy all the same dye lot because it is, I don't know if you guys can tell as much, it's not as bad in person as it looks on the camera, but I did run out of yarn and she had to send me some more yarn and the dye lots did not match very well. And I won't even say it was the color that didn't match as much as the intensity of the merino that was blown through the cotton casing, because you can see a lot more of the cotton casing, which makes it look a lot whiter on the main part of the body. And then whenever I added the new skeins, it just had a lot more of the merino fibers through it, and I can see a lot less of the cotton casing. I hope that makes sense. Maybe if I get a little closer, you can see that it's a lot more of the wool opposed to here where it's a lot more of the cotton casing that you can see. So I just really recommend, you know, making sure you're getting the same dye lots as you normally would anyways, or alternating skeins if it's a project that you can do that with easily. But in the end, the drape is amazing. Like, ugh. And it's still slightly damp, so it's just gonna get even better. And I am really excited about the finished product of this. I definitely think I'm going to get myself a sweater quantity because I think I would really enjoy wearing it. I am making a sweater with a similar type of yarn, Knit Picks' Wonder Fluff. I've also used it in the past. And it's kind of similar to this yarn, although it is baby alpaca instead of merino. So if you're sensitive to alpaca, it wouldn't be a good alternative, but if you can handle alpaca just fine, I would recommend it as an alternative to this yarn. It gives me a similar feel as far as like the drape of it and all of that good stuff. Like, it does have the casing, but I do find you see a lot less of the casing with the Wonder Fluff than you do with the WoolFolk Luft. You see a lot more of that cotton casing on this opposed to the Wonder Fluff. So this is about $18 a skein. I do think it's worth it. It is 50 grams a skein. It took me 10 balls to make a size large sweater. So it can be a bit pricey. It definitely can be pricey because you're not getting a lot, but I do think it's worth it. I really enjoy it. It's really warm. I'm hot, really hot right now, but I love it. The drape is just, the drape on it's amazing. It's taking a while to dry. We're going on 2 days here, but also the environment I'm in is very humid right now. I also have my humidifier on at night, and I don't really think that it's necessarily the yarn, because the last time I used the yarn similar to this, it dried really fast. So I have a feeling that this yarn would also dry really fast. It's just a matter of the environment that you're in. And then the whole dye lot thing. So just make sure you get your same dye lot so you don't have any issue. And again, in person, it's not nearly as bad as it looks on the camera, which is really good because that's what's more important, I think. And overall, I love it. Like I said, I'm definitely going to get some for myself to make myself a sweater because I think it's going to be perfect for the warmer months. Right now, it's really hot. So we're gonna take it off and kind of show you. You guys can see. It just loosened up and draped so nicely. Let me get you a close-up of that too. So the stitch definition would definitely be incredible with some cables or something. As you can see, the ribbing here pops quite well. I really do like it. So overall, I really enjoy this yarn. I think it's really stretchy. I think it's gonna be pretty durable. It probably will pill a little bit just because it's more blown yarn. So I think it will pill a little bit more than like a plied yarn. But yeah, I'm gonna let this finish drying the rest of the way and sew the pockets in. And then hopefully the new owner enjoys it as much as I have, because this yarn was a great thing to try out. I'm really happy that I finally got to try out some WoolFolk, and I definitely will be trying some of their other yarns in the future just based off of this one. And again, it is a little bit on the pricey side, so I think a good alternative if you can handle alpaca would be the Wonder Fluff. It is $8 a ball opposed to the 18, but they are two different fibers, so I can't say that they're the same thing. But overall, I'm really happy with this yarn. I'm really happy with this project. If you want to hear more about the project, be sure to check out my podcast that'll be coming up sometime within the next couple of weeks, and you'll be able to hear the details about it. So those are my thoughts on the WoolFolk Luft yarn. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, leave me a comment down below on anything you want me to include in yarn reviews in the future. I don't know if I included everything you guys wanted to know in this video, but these were just my first impressions, my thoughts while I was working on it, and my thoughts after I'm done with the project. I just love yarn, and I wanted to share my experience with a new variety of yarn. I definitely am going to continue doing these, so yeah, leave me a comment on what you want me to make sure to include in the next video, and I will see you guys then. Oh, and subscribe to my channel. Do it right now, down there.